G'day guys, welcome back to Stat Chat Sports. You're here for our weekly AFL review from the final round of the AFL season, round 23. It was an absolutely spectacular round. I think you guys know what we're going to be talking about in this edition of the review. But as always, I've got with me Tazza, I've got with me Steve. BT, not with us tonight though. BT in the twos. He's spending his bye week in the twos because he needs a good tune-up before we get to finals. But fellas, we don't need him, do we, Tazza? We're going to get stuck straight into this.
Look, he will be missed, but we move on. We carry on, and we'll power through, mate. We'll do it. We'll get it done.
Absolutely heartless, and I love that, Steve. We're going to go straight over to you, mate. Regular segment, hits and misses, no more hold fire. We're at the business end of the season, so we know what we're talking about, mate.
Yes, final day. It's all the excitement of the last regular round of footy, and we're going to a team. I don't think we've spoken about him for a while in terms of the hit. At least we're going Melbourne.
Yeah, well, you've spoken about him a lot, Steve.
I've spoken about him a lot.
Yeah, come on. That's all you speak about.
Oh, rubbish. No, look, they deserve to be there. I mean, for me, they just absolutely demolished Brisbane. We expected it. I mean, I think I called it as a draw.
You did.
And I couldn't be more wrong.
You called it as a both teams scoring over 100 and a draw is what you called it. It was unreal.
Yeah. So way off the mark there. They absolutely demolished him, and had to secure a second spot.
Yeah, clinical performance against a team that we knew was going to be a top four-ish team. Brisbane not in the top four though, obviously. Tazza, this midfield's just starting to hum now. Obviously started the season 10-0. Faltered a little bit around the bye, but they look back to their best.
Yeah, obviously you got the likes of Oliver and Petrarca who have just been doing it all season. But for me, the injection of Angus Brayshaw from halfback into that midfield is just it's been a revelation, and we know what he can do. We've seen it before. He almost won a Brownlow doing it. I think he came third.
Yeah,
2 or 3 years ago, something like that.
2018.
So, he's got the pedigree. So yeah, it's obviously their midfield is stacked. So you got to. I think they need to put him in there, and he's doing just great things in there now.
I think the back line is the key over the last few weeks as well. Stephen May just getting back to his early season form, Steve. And Jake Lever. Jeepers creepers. I've got something in my throat. I don't know what's happened there. Steve, you take it away, mate.
That is 100% staying in a video.
Yeah, that's got to stay. That's an absolute shocker. I don't know what happened
there. I'll attempt to finish off what you were going to say. Yeah. Stephen May getting back to his early season best. Jake Lever as well. We've spoken about, especially Stephen May, multiple times, especially during their dodgy phase when he was out the team, and just showed exactly how important he was. So, yeah, good for him to get back to his regular form. But the forward line clicking as well. I think I mentioned it as well that when they were going through that patch that they were missing their key goal scorers. They were, not missing them. They were there, but they weren't doing anything. And they proved here that they are probably back to their best.
Yeah, no, bang on. Cozzy Pickett as well, looking sensational in the first half. I've recovered, no longer choking, but speaking of choking, Tazza, this is where we go to the miss. One of the biggest choke jobs you'll ever see. You know where we're looking.
It's Carlton, yeah. Like 2 weeks in a row. These poor supporters, they finally thought they were there. The only team, pretty sure it's for a long, long time. I don't know if it's ever. It might be ever to have been in the 8 for 22 rounds and then missed right at the death.
Yeah,
it's you feel for them. I have to feel for them.
You've got to.
It's absolutely dejecting. But they're their own worst enemy. There were so many in the last 5 minutes. There were so many moments in that game where they just shot themselves in the foot. There was poor game management. They did all the right things, probably for the first 3 quarters, especially that third quarter. It was so good. But That last quarter, they shit the bed. There's no other way to put it. They did completely shit the bed.
0 goals, 6 to 5 goals, 1 in the last quarter. That was off the back of an 8-goal third quarter to the Blues. And they look home. It's just absolutely demoralising, Steve. And I don't think it's just the last 2 weeks. I mean, this is a team that we were talking about early in the season as they'd storm out the blocks, look great, put up a lead, and teams would just chase them down. So, yeah, we focused on the last 2 weeks, but it's been a trend all year, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think the only reason like they've been in that in the top 8 for the whole season is because of the start they got off to. And yeah, we're going to look at the last 2 weeks and say that they threw away 2 games, but they've also lost the last 4, along with a few that have been sprinkled through the season as well. Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to those last 2. They are both incredibly winnable games. To throw it away, put it right at the end of both games. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a Carlton supporter right now, and I know a few. So,
no, it's going to hurt for a little bit, but I think you've got to take, a bit of solace in the fact that this was a much improved year for the Blues. They didn't get to finals, obviously, and that was the goal. Well, the goal was to go further than finals, but they looked a much improved team. Vossi's got that team much improved of where they've been over the last few years, and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel now. If you're a Blues fan, you can see top 4 being a realistic chance for this team next year. When they get all the pieces back together, when they get that situational awareness down pat. So, yeah, it obviously hurts. They're definitely in the miss for this week. But you've got to say the future does look bright for Carlton fans out there. We've got another team that we need to talk about here. That we haven't covered them in the miss. But I think that this team deserves their own segment because just one of the biggest misses, not just for this past week, but one of the biggest misses I think we've seen for a good couple of decades. And that's the way that the Bombers have handled this coaching debacle. I mean, Steve, have you seen anything like this ever? It's just been unreal.
No, it's as a soccer fan, it's something you see in that sport all the time, and it's brutal. It really is. And I haven't seen anything like it in AFL before. The way that they sort of handled the situation, yeah, it's not a good look. Not a good look on Essendon and the board. But yeah, look, I mean, I haven't got really anything else to say. I feel sorry for the guy because you could see at the end of at the full-time whistle, he was devastated. I think he knew what was coming, and he'd obviously put everything that he could into that team, but he knew what was coming. So
yeah, it was the only option.
So he was upset.
It was the only option after the week that they'd had. The writing was on the wall, but just the mixed messaging through the week. We'll look at it on Sunday. I mean, they'd already made their decision. They don't need to sugarcoat it and mess around with it. I don't mind them going after Clarko as well, but clearly they've left their run too late. If they've only approached him on the Monday of the last week of the season, and North Melbourne's been into him for months. So Taz are just a really confusing week for Essendon, and their supporters, rightfully so, really not happy with the direction of this footy club.
Yeah, well, Clarko even said Essendon left their run way too late. He did his due diligence in the fact of listening to their offer, but he never really considered it. And he was like, it just way too late to even consider. North and GWS were so far down the track. It was like there was no chance. And Essendon, they're coming out and saying, "Oh, we need an experienced coach to take this group to the next level." You got rid of one for Rutten. You had Woosher. What are you thinking? You've lost, apart from the players that they've drafted after 2 average seasons. They've just gone. They've wasted 2 years in terms of progression under a tactic and a game style. Now they got to go and refresh it all again. They got to develop under a new coach. It's just a complete balls up. I mean, we're just saying it would suck to be a Carlton fan, but I've got a feel for Essendon supporters too. They've been run through the ringer there. It sucks
for 20 years as well. I mean, this is not an isolated thing for Essendon fans. This is this is really about as bad as it gets. In saying that, I think the decision had to be made. I think Rutten clearly wasn't getting the most out of those players. They'd lost interest, and with the talent they had on that list, they should have been at least competing for finals. And so a bottom four finish like they were just really wasn't good enough. But you're right. They've left the run too late. Adam Kingsley now, he would have been a prime candidate. He's gone. Giants have snapped him up today. So Essendon, they've really got to get their skates on. But enough about Essendon. Clarko watch, North Melbourne. This is a big result, Steve, for North Melbourne fans. Just a massive get. That's the guy that they would have been dreaming about having as their coach. And they've got him for the next 5 years.
Yeah, well, what are they labelled him the greatest coach in the modern era, which is, you can't really argue against. It's like, excuse the football analogy, but it's like any team signing Sir Alex Ferguson as their coach. It's like he's got the credit. He's got the credit. You know what he's going to deliver. So, as shit as North Melbourne were this year, he's the caliber of coach that maybe I'm going a little bit too bold here, but he's the type of person that would turn him around and win a premiership within like 2 years. You know what I mean? There's like big expectations on his shoulders. Like, but I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm saying I'm batting pretty high. That's not going to happen. But like, he's the only coach that would get them out of the rut that they're currently in. So yeah, they've got the perfect one.
Well, I mean, you are a man for bold predictions, and I wouldn't mind you putting your money where your mouth is on that one.
Might be one for next year. So
we'll stick that one in the
Melbourne for premiership.
Yeah, that's we'll stick that one in the piggy bank, I tell you. But it's got to be good signs for North, and you think Clark is probably going to attract a few ex-Hawthorn players as well. Taylor, I mean, Jack Gunston's been rumoured. Bradley Hill, the man that just for some reason keeps bouncing around to different clubs. So he might be able to get a few mature age players to help stabilise that list and then really start developing that young talent.
I don't even think it's about what they can get. It's what they can keep. Obviously, they've got Cam Zohar, who's been touted as maybe moving to the Bombers. Yeah, so, I mean, why would he want to leave?
Yeah,
he's got a chance to... Exactly. Let's not forget Horn Francis, who it sounds like just wants to go back to Adelaide, has had enough. I mean, he gets to work under Clarko. Why leave? I think it opens not for what you can bring in, but the retention. Retention for North is... They've got a lot of good young players there. So this is key to retaining that and building around it. So a huge appointment. It's absolute win for them.
And there's a few good young pieces on that list as well. I mean, we were quite big on North Melbourne in the off-season. Clearly, we looked like absolute idiots. But that wasn't the only team that we were wrong on. So check us out later on the week. We'll be coming out with a video where we look back at all of our pre-season predictions, the ones we got right, and of course the many predictions which we got wrong. And North Melbourne's certainly one of those. But yeah, look, if you are a North Melbourne fan and you're up and about Clarko, we know there's a lot of North Melbourne people that like watching our videos. So make sure you let us know in the comments how you're feeling about it. Essendon fans, Carlton fans, we feel your pain. We feel your pain. So let us know in the comments how you're feeling. It's obviously a tough time, but look, there's always next year, and we can certainly look forward to that.